next year, and it's just to see if so they have something called the Junior Red Wings, because it's the Watertown Red Wings is the organization.
Yeah.
They've got a Junior Red Wings, which is above learn to skate, but not quite at the might competing level. So there are a bunch of those kids that kind of are in a position to graduate out of that, plus any might age kids that might want to play in the fall. So it was about 40 kids the last couple of days. So it was a good it was a good group. So we got to see, which kids potentially could become the might players, so to speak, and which maybe would benefit from another year of instruction. And so the kids that'll come back will be around 30 of that 40 group, and they'll skate together for a month in September, and then they'll be separated after that into their levels of the different teams, so they can, compete the best they can, learn the best they can, be in the best environment.
Is that 5 and 6 year olds?
It's actually mostly 6, 7, and 8. And then squirt practice or tryouts, excuse me, will be next week. Pee-wee's after that. So it's kind of tryout season here for that. And I also do some evaluating with some other associations. I'm doing that tonight. I'm going out there around 6. So just another phase in the world of hockey, right? Seasons are pretty much over here. A little bit of playoffs here and there left for a couple of teams, but now it's tryout season.
So you try out there right now. We usually try out in the fall in Canada.
Yeah, which we used to do that here in the States, but I think one of the big influences, honestly, and this is the commercialism to our sport, is the rink owners really pushed for spring tryouts because typically towards the end of February, early March, the wells just dry up because seasons are over, kids aren't playing. So they kind of pushed that, the rinks that had their own teams and such, and kind of pushed their memberships to do that, to get them to buy more ice so that they could financially be in a better position. I agree. I think fall is a better time to do it. One thing that the organization does, which is good, because a kid all summer, they can grow, they can, develop their skills, their abilities, is let's say at that squirt level, you're picked on the second team. If within the first couple of weeks or so of your practices in the fall, if it's clear you could play at the upper level, we'll move a kid up. Like we'll move them up so they're in the best possible spot.
I think you guys, your organization is totally different though. And in Calgary, like we have all these communities, like we live in the Trails West area. So the kids have to play for Trails West. So you don't have to have these tryouts because they can't go anywhere else. Like the level I'm coaching, there's only 3 teams and they have to play for one of those teams if they want to play the girls. But in the midget, it's like they have open tryouts. They can go anywhere. So that kind of changes it. So I know they're recruiting, and Wally told me they can sign 5 players right now, but they're not having camps. But the top teams are still playing off right now. The provincials for the AA is next week, and then the AAA is the last week of March.
Yeah, they don't restrict it. So I mean that in some ways that's okay because we don't have the populations like you do, I think, in your concentrated areas. Like we have like Watertown youth hockey. There's probably 30% of the kids from the town of Watertown. Some might go play somewhere else, but for the most part, there's not enough kids where you could field 2 teams at every level. In some cases, maybe not 1 team at every level. So those surrounding towns, you get to kind of move around a little bit, which gets a little problematic, right? Like somebody feels like, hey, this team is going to be really good this year. I'm going to go play for them. And so there's a little bit of that jumping around. But it's just the way it's done. There's just not enough population to say you live in this area, you got to play here.
Yeah, our spring hockey is like your hockey. It's recruiting. You know, yeah, so I'll show you a picture of. They just announced one of our players. Or I don't know if you can you see this here.
No, we can't see it, Tom.
You
It's
got to
not
put it
on.
almost right in front of your face for us to see it.
Huh?
You almost have to put the phone right in front of your face so it's in the screen.
Oh, okay.
Screen. Yeah, I see it. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I think this is a spring team. It's not really a team Alberta, but they're going to some major tournament in Boston or something. So
Well, up here, Peter, is the really serious players and parents get into spring programs, and they'll come down to prospect tournaments. And we're talking a little older age levels here, but that's sort of the norm where they try to get their kids seen, play higher level of competition. And, they're all aspiring to play a higher level of competition down the road. I think the ultimate goal in Canada for girls is U18 AAA midget, and the likelihood of scholarships is more possible from that. I wanted to get back to how both of you guys pick players. What are like at that young age when you mentioned 6, 7, and 8-year-olds, Peter?
Yeah.
A friend of mine who I coached, and there were 2 other young men living in the area that I coached years ago, and they took over the squirt age group in their area. It's called Springbank, and just outside of Calgary. Lots of teams at that age group, like actually they would have 10. And they did a selection process, I think, Peter, is worth noting, because at the end of the year, when they selected and used this model for development, they won every city championship except 2 of them of the 10 age groups, competing against Calgary teams. Their top number 1 team, they felt they had too many good players, and against the will of the executive, they created 2 teams, both played in the city finals. So the model obviously worked, and I've just entertained this with that age group. They mix the talent group up and eventually created a very strong middle group, a group that was really weak, that needed maybe more to learn to play, learn to skate. They might be of 10 teams, your number team 9 and 10. They put them in 3 stations. Once they saw the kids skate, the first station was just skill, watching them skate. Everybody did skates, and they sorted them into 3 groups, and they always kept the largest group, the one group, the largest, which was the weakest kids, and they would move them to the middle or to the upper group. I use the term Eagles, Hawks, and Falcons. The end of the day, the Eagle group might make up your top 3 teams. The Falcon group might make up your middle 5 teams. But that's how they pick their teams, and that's also the model they practice with. 2 teams combined, a skill station, a compete station, 1 versus 1 battle, and the other one was a game station where there was thinking, and you could tell if they had played enough and were smart enough to think the game. So they used those 3 traits to rank the kids, not just one general number. and it really created a pretty good model. It was successful. So I wanted to share it with you. In fact, the young man I worked with in the neighboring area, he took this to 5 other communities in Alberta, and they purchased it as a package. And we have 40 practice plans, which really we would cut down to 10 for the entire year and make sure they repeated each practice 3 times. The first time to learn how to do it, second time to get better at it, and the third time to sort of master the skills given their age group. So a great model, a skill station, a compete 1 versus 1 race battle station, and then a numbers game station. And using 3 zones of the ice, it worked out pretty well. So I wanted to slip that one in just for
Sure.
listeners.
Sure. I think it's important too, that piece of what you're doing there is I see too many, if there's a drill, if there's a book of, let's say 200 drills at a level, coaches feel like they've got to do those 200 drills. And by the time you get through everything, the kids aren't really good at much of anything, because it's what you said. First time you're going to learn a drill, second time you're going to try to get better at it, and then the third time you're going to be really used to it. So now you can really hone in on the fine points of whatever skill that may be. So yeah, I agree with that. I like I'm a big fan of giving the players something, adding something to challenge them, but also giving them something that they'll be good at. I think that makes for a good practice.
Yep. Tom, when you picked your team this year, you had your whole staff watched and talked after they would play games. A large number of girls were trying out for 3 different teams, and they were going to be
160
drafted.
trying to
60 trying out. So, Tom, what did you look for? What were the key traits that you honed in on when you picked your team this year?
Well, we were the new team. We didn't know anybody except for a couple that came to our hockey camp. So the biggest thing was their skating and their compete level. If they can't skate, they didn't compete. We didn't really watch them that much, but we had to rank, a whole bunch of players because there's a draft. So we only got to pick 1/3 of the ones that we ranked. So we just ranked everybody, and that was the 2 things. And of course, pretty obvious if someone's got those 2 components, and then they can score all kinds of goals. Everybody has them ranked right at the top, right? So, but skating and compete, and we took one girl that wasn't a great skater. She competed hard, but she was really strong on the puck, and her fitness wasn't very good. And from January on, she's been our top scorer. She plays some game with her dad, some scoring game with her dad. I don't know. Jim told me about the game, but they have a competition between the 2 of them, and she's got to the point she beats her dad, and he plays hockey. And if she gets a shot, there's a really good chance she's going to score. She doesn't shoot just to shoot. She can really shoot, and she beats goalies with her shot. And she was our top scorer since January. So her skating, just playing with these girls and all the skating stuff we do, has really improved. So that's kind of the starting point.
Peter, my question is, like at the higher levels, when they're looking at major junior players and university players that might move on, scouts will have like 7 traits with descriptors of these 7 traits, which to me are sort of the details of what they have to improve at down the road. When you pick them, you've got what you've got right now, but the coach has to develop them though. So that's why I like a large number of traits at the elite level, like talking the national team, because you could hone in on the specific weakness of offensive hockey sense, not able to the skill, maybe receive passes because they didn't learn timing and support. So, but at this level, skating is the one that sticks out, and depending on how many years they have played, what kind of instruction they've had, And when they're born, in terms of their age, it's squirts. They're maybe a year younger than some of the players trying out.
Yeah, I mean, most of these 6-year-olds, this is the first time they've ever really skated. Maybe they've, gone public skating or something like that, with mom or dad, but this is the first time they've ever actually really skated and put on hockey equipment. So it's really, really the beginning stages for these kids.
Tom, I got a question. Skating, I think we can look and say, gee, they can skate both ways. They can turn both ways. Can they stride backwards? But when you say compete, Tom, what are some examples of compete?
Well, there's a loose puck, and do they get in there and battle for it and battle and win their battles? When they're the one checking the puck carrier, are they getting on them and creating a good angle? And are they going hard to the net without the puck? Like all the things are pretty obvious who's really giving full effort out there, not kind of watching the game, waiting for the puck to pop to them.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I'd add to that too, I think the back check. I think when you're at a tryout, and again, this is I think more bantam and midget levels. Told players, if you want to stand out at a tryout, be the kid that back checks, because nobody wants to back check because it's too much work. And if you are the one who's back checking, you'll stand out. And more than once, I've had kids tell me, "Coach, I made the team," and what they said was they really liked how hard I worked on the back check. I mean, it's the simplest thing, but it's hard work, and a lot of guys just don't want to do it.
And that's how you can stand out, because the other players are coasting back.
Yeah.
And you see this one player coming back, hard, so you notice them.
Yeah, 100%.
Peter, I learned that very early working with high-level national team players. You're exactly right. The back check showed you whether they worked hard, they cared, they were committed, they paid the price. You could judge that emotional commitment to an area that doesn't get a lot of attention. But the other thing, you could watch whether they could skate or not.
Sure.
They can come back hard, but if they're kicking their feet up and they're just pushing back and they can't skate. So I judge forward stride on back check. And I sat with some NHL scouts watching a U18 boys competition with prep schools. And I talked about this trait, and we watched a few of the back checks, and we pointed out the ones whose accelerated well, skates were close to the ice, they didn't pound the ice, and evaluated the skating that way. And it became a thing that distracted them for the rest of their scouting, because they started to look at this. But the quality of teaching skating or teaching winning a free puck, that's what we want coaches to do. So it's one thing to pick a team and then just play with what you've got, and rather than develop everyone at what they need to be the better they can be. That's
Yeah.
sort of my mission.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, that's one of the things I'm hoping to do with working with this organization, because a lot of the coaches are inexperienced. So trying to give them those tools of what you need to work at each level, but then getting excited about the teams are fairly small. The teams are anywhere from 12 to 15 kids with a goaltender. So you do have the ability to actually micromanage each kid a little bit as far as what they really need. So I'm hoping to kind of instill that in them between the head coach and they typically have one assistant. Pretty good pool, I think, this year. I'm hoping so they can all have at least 2 assistants. So they'll be able to pull the kids aside, spend some time with them. Hey, this kid, work with Johnny over here with his feet a little bit. He needs that. Janie's got to work on her passing, pull her aside a little bit, to really hone in and like you're saying, take the time to improve those kids individually, because the teams aren't that big here at the town youth level.
Tom, I'd like to take some time to promote the hockey development camp you're going to be running that we ran last year and some of the changes you're advocating, and maybe you can get into talking about that. But right now, I'd just like you to talk about the proposed camp. Uh, I believe it's the first week of July in Calgary, and any of the elite players that are in Calgary, we're hoping will take advantage of it because Tom and his staff that are working at it, I believe, including Cassie Campbell, who's the name person, they are going to have 3 ice times a day. I'll be helping with a classroom session. And Tom, I wonder if you could talk a bit about your weekly plan. And you're doing U13 or U15 or both?
Well, we're doing the girls graduating from U13 and the ones that played U15 last year.
Okay. Can you
So
go
that's
into
good.
the details of
So,
what you're offering?
so it's at Flames Community Arena. It's kind of middle of Calgary. And what we do, we'll start off, we have 2 hockey and 1 skating a day. So we start off with a 75-minute hockey session. And then we do shooting and skills off ice in the curling rink right next door. And there's a lot of fields right there too. And then we go back to another hockey session. Then they have some time for lunch. Then they go in the classroom with you. And I talked to you the other day about what I want in the classroom based on, I mean, reading a lot about the Finnish education system, which is ranked number 1 in the world most of the time. It's always in the top 10 out of like 180 countries. And they got rid of, teaching to the test. And they have looping, which a teacher or a coach stays, they do it the same in their hockey organization. A coach or a teacher stays with the kids for about 3 years in a row. So you really get to know the kids. And you can do the things like Peter just talked about. You find out what they like to do, and you know them, and it's almost an individual plan that everybody has. So, and they do a lot of discussion, and like Alan Andrews talked about, a lot of the kids doing the teaching. So what I want to do now, because I find that teaching some of the game understanding is hard to do. So what I want to do is I want to have maybe 10 minutes of video showing breakouts. And each kid gets that. Not all the kids I want. They each get a link, and now it's pretty easy. They can watch it on their phone, and they think of what makes a good breakout and a bad breakout and all this kind of stuff. And then in class, they meet in a small group and they talk about it. And the reason why you have them all get it first is how groups work is usually the dominant person does all the talking, right? And the other people don't get a chance to say anything. This way they've all thought about it. And then that group comes up with a consensus and they present to the rest of the kids. So, now the kids have been engaged instead of just listening. They've been engaged and they're listening to their peers. And I think that'd be a way better way to understand the importance. Like that player I just showed you the picture of. She's unbelievable skills, but a really high risk, low reward player in our own end. She got way better at it. But, trying to beat 3 players instead of just make that easy pass out of the zone, and she has the skill to do it 90% of the time, but that 10% she loses it, you're in a lot of trouble because they're right by your net. So these kind of things, and do that with all the different phases like power play, penalty kill, and that's a view of that. And then after that, they've had 2 ice times, dry land, a classroom, and then the last ice time is skating. And Gaston Schaefer, who I met through Johanny, he was his skating coach when he coached in Davos, Switzerland, but he moved here, and I needed a coach, and Johanny said he thought he lived in Alberta. So anyways, he'll go through, he was skating champion of Switzerland. He was a coach of the Swiss national skating team. He's got a doctorate in body mechanics, and for 4 years he traveled the world as a feature skater for Ice Capades Holiday on Ice. So he really understands the body mechanics of skating and all, and just go through the techniques of skating, the striding, like you said about the kids kicking back and the foot flying in the air. And he goes, so they're doing the proper striding. So they do that for 5 75-minute sessions. So they end up with 18 hours and 45 minutes of on ice, and then of course the shooting is a weakness especially in girls hockey. But really work on the shooting that off ice session, and even the puck handling mechanics. So that's our plan. And we did this for a dozen years in Jasper, this 3 ice time a week. And I mean, it seems like they'd be really tired, but at the end, that last game, they're just flying because, we work the work rest ratios and all this kind of stuff too, so that they have the energy. And it's based on, the other thing about Finnish education is they found, because they were really doing poorly before they revamped everything in the hockey and in their education system, that people really get in to try to learn things if they're enjoying it. So the whole thing is, we complement everything with games. They do stick handling, then they have to do it within a game or a competition, so that it's fun when they come on the ice. They look forward to coming on the ice because they do the drills and get the instruction, but they put it within game situations and tournaments as well. Have some tournaments during the competition. So that's the kind of format for the thing. And if anybody out of town, it's right across the street from Mount Royal University, which has, in the summer, the residences, they rent them out. And the casino is about a mile away. It has a hotel, and then down the Crowell Trail, there's Motel Village. It's 10-minute drive. So it's pretty easy to get accommodation if anybody wants to come from out of town. So we did it 2 summers last year, but this, I could only get this 1 week. And it starts on July 2nd. That's a Tuesday. July 1st is our Canada Day. So it's a long weekend. So it starts July 2nd and goes to Saturday, July 8th. So it's a 5-day camp.
Tom, I've talked to a lot of parents that attended last year, and they're looking forward to it. Peter, I don't know about you, but my era, back in our day, there were hockey schools. I don't know there are many hockey schools anymore. There's specialists working with players on specific skills, skating or puck handling, but a hockey school covering the gamut of skill, tactics, on and off the ice in a classroom session. That's what I did for 10 years, back in the 70s and 80s, and I had 2 arenas completely filled. And of course, being a teacher like Tom and his staff, they know how to teach. But does that happen anymore down there, or do they just play spring hockey and rely on the games and practices of the coach?
So yeah, the hockey school like you're talking about is kind of a dying breed. I mean, years ago I used to work for a company called Huron Hockey, and
Yeah.
they were packed. Like summers were packed. There'd be 70 kids on the ice at a time. You do 8 to 10 stations, and it was all the things that you're talking about. Now, part of it too, honestly, is again the monetizing of this is you have a couple of things. One thing is if you're, again, because tryouts are in the spring, so if you've made a AAA type team, they skate all summer. So they've taken away whatever ice maybe might even be available in some cases to those hockey schools. And those kids aren't going to go to the hockey school because they're on the AAA team and they'll practice all summer and they'll do tournaments all summer. So that kind of takes that piece away. There are a few of those type of schools around still, not that many. I mean, I know like back in the day, Turcotte stick handling would be full all the time. Laura Stam, power skating, full all the time. Now they're still around, but not in any degree that they used to be. So that has changed here quite a bit as well.
Well, right after us is the Okanagan Flames Hockey School. They've got their rink booked. And after that, Mount Royal University has a hockey school, the same rink. So, but they have 3 rinks there. But there still are hockey schools. But like you say, there's so many of these specialist camps and that compared to what there used to be. You guys have, and the spring teams have already started. I asked my team, do you want to go in a tournament? And the parents said, well, all the kids are going to be on spring teams. So like Cassie has a spring team she doesn't charge any money for. She asked me the other night if I'd come out and run some practices with her. So the spring hockey is big, but that's been around for a long time, but it's bigger than it was before for sure.
Well, Tom, I'm going to edit this portion. It's about actually 12 minutes, and I'm going to definitely promote the school because I watched it last year, and it was pretty exciting because I know I've worked with spring hockey teams mentoring the coaching staff last year, and they ran competitive practices. They didn't teach as much as a hockey school. There wasn't proper repetition. They were just preparing for tournaments, and kids got better. And I'm telling you, the kids that played on these spring teams, they're the ones that are going to move up. And if you want to seriously get to the elite level, I think that you're hooked in having to play on a spring team and take advantage of a school like Tom's in terms of the timing. So I don't know how, Tom, your school times with the spring teams, but I recommend it because I saw the results last year and I saw how well your team played this year from the way you practiced and taught, passing in particular. So I just wanted to mention I watched 2 of the top teams play in the semifinals in the U11 category, and then 2 teams play in the U13 category in community hockey, Tom. And they are pretty decent, but they're not ready for the elite U13 level. And the U13s that I've watched, they couldn't turn both ways, and they didn't pass the puck as well as the teams you've worked with. So take advantage of any teaching you can get in that 1 week period. I think it's going to be a blessing for them because nobody teaches as much anymore. They learn by playing games and having lots of movement and quality practices, but teaching those skills, you just can't put a price tag on it.
Well, exactly. If you get the proper technique when you're young, it just, then you can play the game. If you can take a pass without bobbling it and stuff, get under control, then the rest of your energy can be reading the play and what's the next play is. So you have to get that. Those kind of things are automatic. And the same with the stride. If you have a bad stride, it's really exhausting for the first place. Because you have to stride and glide, not just thump the ice, beat on the ice. And that's why we have that skating part of it, because it's, I always talk about the player I coached at university that led Canada major junior in scoring, 81 goals, 81 assists, and never even went to NHL camp, which is unbelievable. And because he was a bad skater. And nowadays they put him with a skating coach. how the heck you pass off on a guy like that is unbelievable. But skating is the key for sure.
Tom, how important in female hockey is physicality, which I think would fall under the compete trait quality you're looking for?
Well, I don't think you can't play at the end of your stick. You can't just reach in with your stick and your body away from the player. You have to get the angle and skate through the hands and lift the stick and take the puck. And you're not going to win. You're not going to win battles just playing at the end of the stick and playing tight gaps for defensemen. You're at the advantage on a tight gap. Defense think they're better off giving the player a lot of room, but then the player can do all kinds of things. So physicality is really important. You can't, like in girls hockey and even up to bantam and boys, you can't just play the body, hit somebody, and then pick up the puck. You have to be playing the puck at the same time. And a good referee, if they see the stick on the puck and you skate through the hand, shouldn't ever be calling penalties on that. Where some of them do, but not all of them. But it's a physical game. It's a contact. There's no hitting, but there is contact. And I really believe. I've always said I don't like this no contact till a certain age. There should be contact all the time, but the rules should be one step hitting, and the stick on the puck. Then you're teaching the proper technique at the same time, and it's not a big, like I heard at the start of the year how U15, so many kids got hurt the first month because they don't hit, they charge. They're not going, it's not anything to do with hockey. They're like kamikaze pilots. And I heard of broken wrists and all kinds of shoulder injuries. And because at that age where you got the biggest size difference you'll ever have, you all of a sudden, okay, say now you can start hitting, which is mind-boggling to me. But
Tom, that's female hockey. There's no body checking.
there's contact, but there's no body checking. There is contact though. You can contact while you skate through the hands.
Well, you can do that at any age level, can you not? That's what you're teaching.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
That should be, all the kids should be good at that. And like I said, they don't have that rule, but there should be one step body checking allowed at all levels, in my opinion. You or I never played when there was no hitting, right?
Yes.
Right through, and it wasn't that big of a deal.
No.
It wasn't, oh, this is a new thing. We just always got used to, giving and taking contact. And I don't remember a lot of charging going on when I played. It wasn't just some new thing that the dads are all excited about. Now my kid can go out there and kill somebody.
And to your point too, Tom, it creates a lot of bad habits, right? And it's probably one of the reasons those kids are getting hurt, because they never had to have their head up. There was no such thing as, I should have moved the puck, because they could just kind of dangle or move with it. And with the body checking, you take away a little bit of that time and space. And instead of, like you're saying, all of a sudden at 15, you're taking away the time and space that they've never had to deal with that before.
And it's really dangerous, Peter, when you're going in the boards. Like I get scared sometimes. I'm watching my girls that go in the board straight, and instead of giving a check and making sure they're at some kind of an angle so they won't fly in their head first.
Yeah.
Like I think that's one of the consequences of playing for years with no hitting. Then all of a sudden you're going in the boards and someone's going to follow you in there, and they hit you a little early, able to torpedo your head right against the wall. Eh?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think those rules could definitely do with a little fine tuning, and they'll say that if you talk to the people that create those rules, at least here, and the officials, you'll talk about the fact that there is body contact, but even sometimes the officials, and it's just kind of the way it is too. With at the younger levels, you tend to have the less experienced officials, and they'll call things that are checks that aren't really checks. So you are in some ways stifling the development of those players because they're being perhaps told one thing by their coach, and then the official for that game is calling it as a penalty, and now they don't know what they should be doing.
Yeah, they get contact confused with hitting.
Right.
Yeah, I went through something this season watching U13s. Tom coached that level last year. I didn't see a problem with contact last year. I thought there was no injuries that I saw, no ambulances called. This year I did at U13. And possibly it was more competitive this year because um, they're all getting into an elite mindset and they're a little more excited. And the kids that are playing that hockey, they do put in more time. Now, Tom didn't think when he started last year they were serious enough, and he's finding U15, they're serious enough. But at the U13 level, there are some kids that aren't, and they're learning to be committed. But last year, I had two of our teams playing one another. It was competitive, and the referee let body checking go. And by the end of the game, it was ugly. The coaches from the same association were yelling at each other on the bench, and the one team that was down with a minute left, their most physical and most talented player took a run at the opposing player from behind and got a 5-minute penalty. Behaviorally, not acceptable, but taking that risk, it was something I spent a good half hour with both staffs talking about the ethical nature of the game and the role of coaches. The referees are kids, Peter. The coaches are adults. And I
Right.
think they have to assume more responsibility on the behavioral side of coaching than the officials.
Right. Do you find too, to your point, because it's the same thing here, the officials, especially at like the squirt and peewees are much younger kids than the coaches. Do you find they try to take advantage of that at some points during the game as well? Because you are the adult, as far as some intimidation or, verbalizing things with the officials.
Oh, I think there's mind games going on with the officials. I've had one of our coaches be suspended for twice from the bench of a U13 team. And we've talked about it. He's recorded himself. He's mellowed a bit, but being an ex-competitive NHL player, plays the game out loud, he tends to get pretty wound up on the bench and react to the officials. So teaching coaches how to cope with officiating and stay in control. I mean, they're the adults, and there's sometimes 14 and 15-year-old kids out there officiating that can be intimidated. So what happened, Peter, the next day after that game, one of the teams was playing, and I went to watch the game, and it's against another team, not in our association, but a team in the league. And I got shown the video of that hit by the coach, and it was vicious. It was worse than I thought it was. And I said, I'm going in to speak to the referees about the nature of body checking. They can't allow it, that kind of contact. They can't allow hitting. They've got to learn to check. So I went in young officials. They knew who I was because um, of my name in the community is fairly well known, and they took it to heart. They ended up calling too many penalties. They called everything, and it was, you know, it's just a matter of their developing a feel for the game and understanding their role is protect the safety of the game, respect in the game. And I told them after that I wouldn't talk to any more officials before games. And I think the onus on that, the responsibility for contact, has to be the coaches uh, amongst themselves to their players so that we get on the same page about possession of the puck is the reason you check. And the degree of force isn't about intimidation. So having to do that now in girls hockey, and I don't know, Peter, if you've watched the women's professional league, but they're allowing body checking, and I really like it. But the players are all big and strong. I have a concern that some of the small, fast, skilled players might not survive in that league because they are big, strong women who can skate and shoot, handle a puck, and there is a lot of contact. Uh,
Do you
Tom,
think,
I got to share this story with you. I was in Ottawa watching a game, and one of the uh, defenders stood up, Carla's defenders stood up and made a great body check, literally open ice. And a male fan in the crowd yelled, "Hit her again!" And it just shows you like there's 10,000 people in the stands. Hitting is an exciting part of the game, but we don't want to cross that line where it's about intimidation. So go ahead, Peter.
yeah, well, do you think, to your point, just a question like what you're talking about with the Women's Professional League, and you're talking about the smaller player, you're concerned there. If you go back, years back in the NHL, if you were small, there was no use for you because it was all big players and it was extremely physical game. Over time, that small player with the speed and skill of the game, not that there is no place for the hitting, because obviously there is, but that small player has found a way to survive and in many cases thrive. Do you think that the women's professional league will learn from that, or have they evolved sort of past that to where maybe that smaller skilled player can still be effective, even though that they're playing a physical game, or it's just a matter of time of that smaller player getting used to that?
You're absolutely right, Peter. I'm worried about that. I don't know what's going to happen. I think, this is my guess, they will adapt better than the men adapted over the years. Right now, there is probably more contact in female hockey than in the NHL. The NHL started stick on puck checking, gosh, it must be 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And I came to the conclusion there's no place for body checking in the game of hockey. It's too fast. So the NHL game changed. In fact, there's more penalties called in the NHL that aren't called in minor hockey. Hooking, that kind of a penalty, the holding up people, interference in minor hockey, that's happening, and they're not calling it. They're letting it go, which is fine. I prefer that. But in the NHL, uh, there are some cases where now with the playoffs, the tough guys being brought in, they've got this role, but it's the entertainment business. We're not in the entertainment business here. We're in the development business. And in female hockey, with pro teams, if physicality is going to be the most entertaining factor, we have to be careful because we don't want it to go through the old school hockey we lived through And I don't believe fighting will ever be accepted in female hockey. But I just love the female game. And it's funny, I'm more concerned about the health and welfare at U13 and U15 hockey because the game is so fast. And as Tom said, they haven't had any checking growing up, body checking. So it's a learning curve. And the coaches, adults, have to take responsibility for it, not blame others for it, blaming officials.
Right. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head too when you said that the NHL is entertainment, a big part of it. Obviously, the game's great, but it's entertainment. Whereas, like you said, the youth hockey, you're trying to teach them that. And I think that's an important piece that I'm trying to get through to the coaches is you watch the Rangers play the Bruins last night and you're playing the town next over. It's not going to look like the Rangers and the Bruins, right? It's there's things that happen in that game that you're not going to do, and there's things happen in the game that your kids can't do. So let's concentrate on the skill piece, and when there is a really great play that's made, maybe think more and concentrate more on that. How can I translate that to my players so they can make those types of skilled plays, as opposed to some of the other stuff that it just seems that they watch and they try to emulate in some ways, sometimes the wrong things that happen in those games.
I'm gonna just change the topic a little bit here. Tom, I got a chance to evaluate on behalf of Hockey Alberta. One of your assistant coaches run a practice. Thank you for sending the 3 links that of drills that she did. And Peter, this U15 group and this practice, having played for Tom all year, their skill development and their passing and their skating, I was blown away. It was beyond expectations. And I think the proper practice that they've been doing all year, it was amazing. I just couldn't believe it and how good the practice was. So, Tom, I have a question for you. If you wanted to improve that team and make it more competitive, what would you be trying to improve upon? Because they seem to be just at the top of their skills game right now.
Well, now that they can make and take passes, just try to emulate the NHL. Like, I'm amazed, where I sit at the NHL, I sit way up. And I see plays, because you're way up there, you can see where the open player is, right?
Yeah.
And 95% of the time, the NHL players make that play. And they rocket the passes. And guys can take passes. If they can touch it, they can take the pass. You'll even see American leaguers come up and they'll bobble pucks and that kind of stuff. But so that's the thing, is I'd really like them to be able to read the ice better, make the play when it's there, and then once you pass, you're no longer a passer, right? You got to jump up and be part of the play. So that's what I'd like to improve, that they make the play when it's there. Like, we have that one little defenseman that is absolutely amazing. Peter, she's the second ranked Irish dancer in Canada. Her agility, like her skating, like sometimes she'll warm up doing the edges and that is friggin' amazing. And she can go through just unbelievable amount of players. But if she would move the puck and then jump up, she'd be way more effective. And it's the same with a lot of my players. They go through little stages of either passing, or that then all of a sudden they'll just try to go through the world. And Hell sent me an email this morning, and he's talking about watching the state tournament in Minnesota there, and how he would love to see them improve, improve their passing instead of, just kicking the puck in and shooting from everywhere. So that's the thing that I'd like to do, is that they work together, creating triangles and move the puck. And I think that, put those skills to the proper use instead of
Yeah.
playing 1-5 hockey.
Yeah, that's so important, right? I mean, I had a kid that played for me when I coached university, and he would come out. The guys would always tease him. The first thing he'd do, he'd jump out on the ice and he would mohawk around the entire rink because he just loved that. So, yeah, it was funny and it was great. Like the boys, they loved it. But that was a skill of his that he had, that I got him to incorporate that into his game, and the amount of time and space he was able to create for himself doing that. Now here's a kid who he had probably 7 or 8 goals every year for us, right? Solid, but not spectacular. When he graduated, he went and he played minor pro, and he scored 20 goals. And he scored them just because his skating was so much, even though he played, Division II, which is essentially Division III hockey, his skating was so much better than so many of those other players that he was facing. He was able to create so much time and space for himself. He was able to make plays, get to the net. So like you're talking about that girl there with the Irish dancer there with those quick feet and that just kind of came to mind. He was probably a similar type of human being, where just really up on the toes and just really moves. And when he was able to put the other pieces together as a pro, I mean, 20 goals is pretty good for a season.
It is. And that's the deal, is it's not an individual sport. It has individual skills, right? But everybody, if they can all incorporate all, like getting open for a pass is a huge skill too. Like I have one player that she wants to score all the time, and she skates straight down the ice, looking back over her shoulder, yelling for passes. I mean, if she played hitting hockey, she'd get her head knocked off. And, instead of giving an angle and, make it easier to get her the puck. So all those kind of things, all of that, the skills, and then the working with each other and playing with each other and switching between, the playing roles of puck carrier, pass receiver, first player on the puck, covering away from the puck. Those are all the skills that really good hockey players have. And that's a real challenge to coaching. And that's why, like I said about what I want Wally to do with players, watch the situation and analyze it, because it's really hard coaching. I think it's a way to get players to think of what's effective and what's not, instead of just following, the coaches, what you're saying to do.
Right, and that's one thing too. I've learned that too from the last couple of years doing that color analytics that I do for the women's and the men's games at the university. Is you are in that position where you're higher up and you're able to see more, but just the stuff that you see, like what you're talking to, that like this works. Why aren't we doing this? This doesn't work at all. Why are we doing this? It's pretty. That's been interesting for me. Kind of fun to.
Well, I think I told Wally this the other day. We play the game backwards. Minor hockey, I say we play the game backwards. What happens is elite players, when you get and this is a real push in Finland, they call it the big ice, you get between the dots as soon as you can, because you have so many more options. Of course, the defense wants you against the boards. So you get the puck, you get between the dots, and then someone, if you pass to that player, they can do a wide entry, because the D they can't give you a breakaway, so they have to move over, and you can do a wide entry. And then when the person does a wide entry, they want to get in between the dots and get a shot, and somebody should be driving the net, and all those kind of things. But I find kids, they go to where the other team will let them go. So they get the puck and they skate wide. Well, the other team, they don't stop you from skating wide that much, right? They chase you. And then they pass to the middle where all the defenders are. And that player in the middle is surrounded. you know, and then when they do cross the blue line with a puck, most of them end up in the corner because they don't stop you from going to the corner, right? So you feel great. Oh, I'm stick handling like a star here, but you're moving over and over and over, and you end up outside the dot around the corner. And that's backwards. You should be crossing the blue line trying to get between the dots and, you know, a scoring chance. And when
Yeah.
you get you should be getting between the dots and doing wide entries. So we play backwards.
I agree with that. I mean, the amount of times I see exactly what you're talking about drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Right? You're coming hard, you've pushed the defender back a little bit, you're outside the dot, put on the brakes, Gretzky back, something other than just continue with speed and they just match your speed. And like you said, it's just like you just roll. It's like you're a marble and you're just rolling around the outside perimeter of the rink and away you go. You've done nothing. You've created absolutely nothing.
And
Yeah,
that's
I
what
get that.
defense gives you, right?
Yeah,
And then
100%.
you'll let the player go wide and then close a gap later on. But you know that,
Is
and
that because
that's the hardest thing to get to coach the games with. They do things that are going to result with good scoring chances, just not going down the ice with kind of aimless.
is the reason because we've grown up with north-south hockey? Is this
Yeah,
why?
it could be instead of you know, using regroups and take the ice behind, cross and you know, create 2-on-1s on one player,
No.
go
Well-
inside, come and cross behind, take the ice behind. Like I've got a few clips of the old Soviets, and that's what every time someone gets a puck, they try to get to the inside, someone skates behind. So that, you know, they all this all the time, and you know that it's really effective way to play, and the good lines do this kind of stuff. Like Calgary has a line with Coleman and Mangiapane, and they're one of the best lines in the league. Their possession is off the charts because they always create triangles and support each other. And but it's the real challenge of coaching. How do you get players? You know, they got the skills now. How do they use the skills in a you know, logical, effective way?
Right. And to them, the skills means that I can handle a puck and I can dangle. That's in their mind. That's what skill is, as opposed to maybe I can move it through a triangle. Maybe I can change my feet. I can open my hips and I can make a pass across. They're not thinking that way in their mind, because when you go to a skill instructor, right? What do the skill instructors have you do? They just have you hold on to the puck and handle the heck out of the puck.
Yeah.
So
Well,
now,
look, Egris, he's hardly got any points this year, and he's one of the best puck handlers in the world.
yeah. Yeah, and so you're handling the puck, but you're not doing anything with the puck, right?
Yeah.
Peter, I got to ask you, use the word triangles, and triangulation is sort of Alan teaches novice kids triangulation, Alan Andrews. He has them look it up in Google and come back and talk about it. And he doesn't talk about it, the kids talk about it. And I think that's the critical part of asking them, engaging them. And Tom's video session, the art of it's going to be getting them to think and see and judge and imagine and absorb what's happening internally so it can become a part of their consciousness and naturally become a part of the way they play.
Yeah, and you hope that becomes the way, if you do have the ability to have video, regardless of the level, but that's how coaches begin to coach. Because I know when I was coaching university and we'd watch video and I put up a play and we'd watch the play develop, and then I would say, well, what do you see? It was like a library in there, because first off, nobody probably ever asked them what they thought, because you're just telling them what they're seeing all the time. And once we got that going, it was great. They would talk about a play for 5, 6, 7 minutes just amongst the group, guys throwing out little bits and little opinions and that. So that is the way that is the way to do it, because the more you get involved in something, the more you're going to take ownership of it, right? Other than just taking a direction. So I
And
think,
what age was that, Peter?
well, that was when when I was in college, when I was in university, because even right up through juniors, these guys would go in a video session and the coach says, okay, we come through here and here's what we did, here's what we should have done, as opposed to asking the questions, what did you guys see here? Like if it was a good play, what made it effective? If it was a poor play, what could we have done? And those are the questions that I always ask, because it's always more fun to get people involved, right? Like conversations should be collaborative. They shouldn't be dictatorial. And I think that's one of the things that happens too much, especially like in video sessions with coaches. You have your little agenda and you're getting very dictatorial in what you're doing, as opposed to the people who are going to have to really actually execute it on the ice don't have any input. That doesn't make sense to me.
And it's the same with practice. You don't need to blow the whistle when the last player shoots for the next group to go. They can see it just as well as you do.
Yep.
And then they're a little more engaged than salivating on the bell.
Yes. Yeah. Pavlov's theory. Yeah.
And so that's the art, and that's something that I know I have to work on how to implement that game understanding, because that's the skills. You get the skills, now how do they use them properly? And that's the challenge I'm going to work on.
Yeah, because if you're a D, you love that kid that just wants to hang on to the puck and trying to overhandle and dangle through you. Because most of the time it doesn't work. Maybe the puck gets through, but the player doesn't. So it becomes a useless skill to some degree in that way. Right?
Yeah. But then if they could do that, when you get the puck, you should try to pull someone to you and then dish if someone gets open. You can't dish if they don't get open for you, right?
Right. That's the other piece of it too. But then,
or unless someone's wide open, you give them the puck right away. But that's how to use those skills. And then really when you get to the top of the circle, and that's when those one-on-one skills really can come through. Win a one-on-one and get take a shot from the scoring area.
yeah.
That's when they're harder there too, because there's usually not just one player there too. There's players chasing you. There's players supporting.
Yeah, and I always feel like it's a better opportunity all the way around there, because you're getting a puck through, hopefully to the net, and then you're continuing through. So there still is a potential there that you get hooked, you get tripped or something on your way through, as opposed to just being so easy to play against that some of these players seem to be.
Yeah.
I think, Tom, what you're saying, and Peter, is the game isn't 1-on-1, or pardon me, 1-on-5, and we've got to learn how to play together. And Tom, I'm going back to your passing statistic, tracking completed passes. And last night, I watched the U11s play whole ice hockey, and there were some pretty good passes, but nobody was keeping track of it. The skill level wasn't quite there, but passing was lacking. And then I watched the U13. The passing on one team was better than the passing on the other team. But if we don't value passing and start to track it and treat the pass as being something special, actually, after last night's game, I wanted to talk to the coaches about valuing the puck. And everybody has a cell phone, but the team has its own cell phone. Nobody's going to take it away from you. And the idea of possessing it, protecting it, making sure you own it, it's very valuable, versus just turning it over, giving it away. That's a mindset. And the idea of possession, and teamwork. That to me is the game at the next level that we're striving for.
Yep.
Yeah, that it's unbelievable. Like, we'll have some players on our team that will do 15 to 20 passes, and we have a few forwards that'll have 1 or 0 passes. Just a few of them, and they're the fringe players. It's a new team, so there's basically some players that would have never made this level before, and that's the one thing they really lack, is being able to get the puck, head up and see the play that's there and make that play. Because there's a lot of different skills that go into making good passes. So that it is important to keep track of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we practice passing deliberately, stationary and moving drills. You make a pass to the middle on a horseshoe drill. You might make a second pass in the neutral zone to a specific assigned location and take the shot from an assigned location. In a game, that's not the case. So the idea of the randomness of games and decision making, it's vital to blend into your practice. Deliberate progressions to teach the skill and timing, and then let them compete and apply the skill and timing together. I think that's the art of coaching, is that balance between how much you need to do of everything. And I think the bottom line is they got to enjoy it. They've got to be having fun. So how much is too much, Peter? Deliberate practice, repetition. The people you're working with, do they play enough games, small areas, half ice, whole ice?
So typically, and again, this is something I'm trying to work with. The way it works, and this is above the mice. I will say the mite teams that we had this year probably were the most overall improved. And
What is might? We don't know those.
okay,
names.
so mites is like 8
U9.
would be 8. Well, here it's 8U.
Yeah.
So 6, 7, and gonna be 8 years old that year. They were the most improved, just because the coaches worked so hard on the skating piece with that. And early on, the other levels, they did some skating, but it almost to me appeared as though the coaches themselves they're the ones that got bored with it, not necessarily the players. So all of a sudden you're working on breakouts, and you're working on your power play and things that you shouldn't even be touching, because they don't skate. I wouldn't call it very well. They don't pass very well. And you're actually regressing in some ways as the year goes on, because if you just you can see it like here, if you watch a warm up and 2 teams warm up each end, 90% of the time you can pick who the winner is going to be just by watching the kids warm up and how they skate and how they move. So the ability to just spend so much more time on skating. And then I think it might have been Cassie that was on, or maybe it was Kim that was talking about the concepts. Like if you teach the concepts, you don't have to mechanically, like you're doing a game of chess or checkers, move the kids to where they got to be for the breakout and that kind of thing. With the small area games that you play, you can create all of those scenarios. There's a power play game that I used to play. I've done it all along at the levels. Even it was great in college too. It was actually a 4-on-2. There was a player at the top, player on the wall, and then 2 players that roamed. And then they were against 2 players. There was the same thing on the other side. It was at the bottom of the circles. There was a net and a net. So the 2 defenders on the one side, their job was to get it, move it across to their outnumbered on their side, so they could play it. And it got constant puck movement. But we weren't talking about power plays. I called it the power play game, but we didn't stop and talk about options and that. We just let them play. But you would see it. They'd move it to the guy on the wall. If the guy on the wall didn't have an option, he would move it down immediately to one of those other players that was low. They'd move it across. Maybe they'd move it up top. And they would get shot after shot after shot and move it through. But we were just playing the game. We weren't, doing the, back in the day, all right, you guys are on the power play, the rest of you go down there with the other coach, and then you methodically move them around like chess pieces. This worked so much better, and we were so much more successful with that.
What age did you do that?
I've done that from the university level all the way down to Pee-wees.
Okay.
Pee-wees were age 12, so U12, all the way down to
11, 12, yep.
Yeah. And it
Todd,
works. It works
Tom,
great.
you were going to say something, but I want to mention when they're U13, which is 11 and 12, Pee-wees, girls, have a power play, it's a disadvantage because of them practicing the whole thing, not having the special skills of the deceptive quick puck movement, reading and acting. So I think they do a disservice structuring it at that age. And Tom, you've done U13, and now you're in U15, which is 13 and 14-year-olds. Is there a difference in how you deal with power play now compared to the younger group last year?
Well, I think at the 13, 14-year-old, they're capable of doing anything a college kid can do, because they have, the skill, because it's a fairly skilled group. They're the top ones in the province. So I found that, well, first of all, we had half ice practices and one goalie, so that really restricts a lot. Sometimes we got the full ice. I found that the younger kids, they had trouble doing things that were more than one or two stages to them compared to what these girls could do. So, but then I've had boys that age that were really elite, where a couple ended up in the NHL and one went to Hobie Baker. I could do anything with them that we were doing at university because their skills were no problem whatsoever. And they were like 11, 12, 13. I had them for 2 years, two spring teams. So it's a combination of how good they are, and what age they are. Because if you're struggling with the skills, it's hard to do, other things where you have to use the skill and see the ice and all this sort of thing.
And that's we were talking about earlier, Roy. That's exactly the point. You get bored partway through your season and you start doing all that other stuff, and the kids don't have the skills. So it's not going to work because they don't have the skills to do it to begin with.
Yeah. Well, if you can't take a pass, you're beating the heck out of the puck. I mean, you're not going to make the second pass, right?
Right.
So it kind of goes
things with, again, in this organization, those are the types of things I'm trying to get the coaches to understand. I mean, even simple things like timing and some drills, had to work with them a little bit last night. It was a really simple thing with those kids. They were, like I said, these were the 6 and 7-year-old kids, and really simple, right? Pass the puck back, skate around the tire so you're not flat-footed. Coach give you a puck, pass the puck back and forth, and then take a shot. Super, super simple. But they struggle with getting the timing of, you've got to watch those kids because it's different skill levels. So you and I may not be moving as fast as the next two kids in line. So all of a sudden they're just kind of bunching up and bumping into each other, because you got to be able to time it so that those first two finish so they get out of the way. So there's it's all over. The ability of the coaches is all over the pike. So that's been one of the biggest challenges, and will continue to be that for a little bit, is getting them to just understand even some of the most basic things when you're running a drill.
Yeah. Well, that little game you talked about, I've used that for a long time, but I didn't use it this year at all, at 4-on-2. And we have our last practice tonight. So I'm gonna do that. That'll be one of the activities I do.
I like it because you get 12 players involved at once. So and the next group is ready to go. It's not like I say, the old classic power play kind of setup where there's people that are just standing there forever.
Yeah.
Right. You're not getting involved at all. I like it because of that. It gets a good flow going.
And you can rotate the ones that just killed, go over to be next in line for the offensive group and vice
Yeah,
versa.
those two, like what I would do is those two that were on D, they rotate right up. One of you be on the wall now, one of you be up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good. No, that's good.
Yeah, it's like our group, they wanted to practice some more, even though we got eliminated. They wanted to practice more because the spring teams are coming, and Hockey Alberta has tryouts for their provincial teams. So they didn't want to not be on the ice for a whole long period.
Well, that's great. I mean, you're doing something right, right? Because they want to be on the ice, but they want to be on the ice with you. So that's pretty good.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a tough. Thursday we have a 4 o'clock practice, and the ones that it's, well, first of all, kids just getting out of school, but most parents have to leave work early
Yeah.
and drive. It's a long way. We practice all over this city, and it's a long way. So there's a big commitment to get there. It's as far as both parent and kids, and anything under 16, where after midget and that, the kids have second years they can drive, so they'll be driving themselves to practice. But the parents have to be on board when kids need a ride, because there's no way they can get there on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I did have one Russian kid coaching Bantam about 6-7 years ago, he'd get on the bus with his bag and he'd get to these practices all over the city, because he was kind of used to it, because probably in Russia they didn't have a car, public transport. So I remember when I was, what would it be, U13 hockey, Saturday morning we'd have a game, and I'd keep my gear on, put the skates on my stick, get on the bus and go to the other end of the city to play, because we had school hockey too. So we play a school hockey game too. So you do what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a question for both of you. Tom, your generation and mine, and Peter's, we played other sports in the off season, but we may have gone to hockey school, but we were the hockey school deliverers. And that's not true today. So, the theory by governing bodies is multiple sport, develop the whole athlete. That's not the case today. You guys want to comment on that, the merits of it, or are we just going to renege and give in to year-round hockey?
It's really hard, for the kids nowadays, because I pushed that with my grandson, and he's playing college hockey right now. But he would be getting calls to be on a spring team. I really said, be great if you played lacrosse and do other muscle, develop your athleticism. But they go all year, and you have tryouts starting in August here. It's impossible for them to play hockey in school football. Like I know I played in my era, you guys' era, I played hockey, baseball, football were the three sports basically, and they all had definite timelines, and you played them. But now it's really hard to play more than one sport, because soccer wants your life, field hockey wants you all the time, basketball goes all year, Dance goes all year. I mean, it's hard to be more than a one sport athlete, and the athleticism, isn't as good. So the two sisters that did the Irish dance, they both quit now because the demands of hockey are so much that they're not doing competitive dance anymore. And I think they're both great skaters, and I attribute that to watch the Irish dance, how quick the feet are, and the balance and the body posture. I really think there was a big transfer there, to their athleticism. But it is, ideally you play all these sports, but everybody wants you all year. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's so many other little facets to that too. The other thing too is if you're the passion piece of it gets driven out of some of these kids. And that's the thing that concerns me a little bit. If you have your favorite ice cream in the freezer all the time, eventually you're going to stop opening the freezer because it's just kind of there. It's not that special and you're not that excited about it as you once were. So there's that piece of it too, which why I think it benefits for the other reasons you mentioned as well, why you should be playing other sports. And the other part of it too is, again, here I see is the financial aspect of it. The sacrifices in development, in some ways, as human beings, we force upon these kids where, okay, you play soccer in the fall. Well, guess what? You also play it in the spring and you also play it in the summer. Just like that's what hockey does too. So now I'm forcing you to pick, and maybe a kid loves both sports. Why do we have to force them to choose? It's not healthy for the kid, and it makes a less effective athlete because you're not as nimble, you're not as quick. Like soccer, you used to be able to tell. You used to be able to tell the kids who played soccer when they were little because there'd be a puck along the wall and their sticks would be tied up, and right away that kid would take his or her foot and just move the puck. You'd see that all the time. I see that less and less now because I think part of it is because kids don't get to play other sports. So you don't get some of those things like basketball, the footwork in that, tennis, right? The footwork involved in tennis. You don't get to utilize some of those really great complementary sports. It's not there anymore. Like lacrosse, I know in our town when lacrosse first started, it was a bunch of 13, 14-year-old age, I guess they called them bantam age at that point. They were hockey players. So they'd go out to play lacrosse wearing their hockey gloves and their cages on their helmets. And they were really good because they were fine with being physical and they were really good at getting open and being a spot to receive the ball and give the ball back because it was a really good crossover sport. So the fact that we have sort of forced we as a society have forced these kids to specialize. Kids didn't pick it, right? We forced them to do that. I think that's one of the unfortunate side effects of all of the sports being played right now is we're forcing these kids to choose, and we're taking away certain life experiences that they have. Just simple things like you meet different people when you play different sports. Something as simple as that.
Well, exactly. And then it's really hard to see pickup games of anything now in Calgary anyway. I know I get on the phone and we play touch football and we call each other and meet at the library park, and the facilities now are so much better than when I grew up.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, everybody has the AstroTurf field.
But I don't see random games of soccer or touch football. I see quite a bit of, I drive by a place where there's a basketball court, outdoor court. And quite a few times there's guys shooting there or playing games there. But there's just vast fields right there, and there's nothing happening on them. And unless there's a practice, an official practice.
Yep, you don't see that sandlot football, baseball. You don't see that anymore. If they're
From
not,
baseball, where you just get, a dozen guys and you rotate, it just doesn't happen. And that's what, but when I played, you had to make the team and you had to be skilled to make the team. The coach really didn't teach skills in practice. Our template for the first 10 years I played probably was we go on the ice, skate around a bit, take some shots on the goalies, have a controlled scrimmage where you froze when the coach blew the whistle, and then at a fitness skate. And that was practice plan. You wrote that practice plan at the start of the year and you followed it all year. And that was basically practice. Except in junior, I played in the Alberta junior, and our practice plan was we play games to 5 while our coach and the owner went in and polished off a bottle of whiskey. And then the coach would stagger onto the ice.
morning or afternoon practices.
Well, they're evenings.
Oh, okay, evening practice. Okay.
Yeah. He'd stagger onto the ice, swear at us a bit, bag skate us for, like 20 minutes. And then in the game, things wouldn't be working. He said, why don't you use our power play? Why don't you use our breakout? We're all looking at each other. We don't have a power play or breakout. We've never practiced any of this stuff. So that was junior A hockey. So I played in another junior A team. A guy had structured practice, but that was this Calgary team. So yeah, you do experience a lot of different things, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Peter, I don't know down south whether what is the influence of the NHL game on minor youth hockey? And then Tom, what's going to be the influence of the PWHL on youth hockey?
Well, here, kids don't watch hockey games. They go on Instagram or YouTube and they watch clips. I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with, let's say, a teenager or a 12-year-old and say, did you see the game last night? I mean, the answer typically will be no. Did you watch any video on it? Did you see any clips on Instagram or YouTube? Yep. So they don't sit and watch the game develop. I mean, me, when a game's coming on that I'd be interested in, I hate it when I remember that the game's on and it's 10 minutes in because I feel like I've really missed something. I like to see the drop of the first puck and see how things develop and watch the full 60 minutes and see how that all pans out. But they don't do that. The other hand of it is the coaches, I think the adults do watch the games, but still very often seem to take the wrong things out of the game to bring to practice that they want to work on, right? Like the Flames scored 2 of their 4 on their power plays. So we're going to do that power play is what we're going to do at practice now with our 12-year-olds. That kind of thing. So.
And I think the same thing here, the kids don't watch games. And that's why I want to do that like I talked about. So game clips, and then they have to analyze what happens in elite hockey. Because the only games they see are themselves. So they see the star of one team get the puck and go through everybody, and they think, okay, that's what I need to do. And I think that's why it's important for them to watch and then analyze what happens at, the best players playing the game. And I don't think they watch the women's hockey either. I think they just watch the clips.
Tom, is there any way, like you have some pretty good footage of your games, depending on the arena? Like I'm thinking of this hockey school and doing the classroom session, I've got lots of pre-edited video of male and female hockey. But what about editing some video of your games, of highlight reel clips where you can see how the play developed and how the play finished, good or bad, from your game clips? Have you got some of that? Can you capture some of that?
Well, Jim was doing that at the end. I guess Instat, I haven't ever used the editor, but he used the editor and you can clip out and write things.
Yeah.
So I did that before, before the playoffs and whatever, sent clips of different things. So, it is possible. I got a parent to video our games earlier in the year, and I stopped doing it when we started getting the Instat video, because it's hard for a parent to video the whole thing and when you're trying to watch a game and you're videoing. But I probably got 10 games that was done, but so anything's possible. But I would much rather, for what I'm talking about, is have them see how the elite players play, unless you can find clips from that are successful like our team did.
I'm going to call Jim and I'll talk to him about that, because, and he could send me the Instat link and I could use that at the school, because I don't know, Peter, if you're familiar with Instat, but it's an incredible logarithm system of editing video. And I always watch scoring chances for each team. First thing I'll watch is goals for, and then I'll watch scoring chances. And so the 30-second clip of a scoring chance shows you what happened. And from a coaching point of view, I think that tells you what you're doing well or what you're not doing well.
Yeah, we looked at that for our league, actually. Instat was one of the services that we looked at using. We went with another one just because for us as a group, Instat was cost prohibitive for what they wanted for it. But the one we have was more than serviceable. Anything you'd want, they would do. They clip out the power play, the penalty kill. I could pull up individual shifts of players. You also have the ability to self-edit if you wanted to. It wasn't quite maybe as refined and didn't have as many bells and whistles as Instat did, but it was still good. It was still very good. We got within 24-hour turnaround. In some cases, we got 12 to 18-hour turnaround. It's pretty amazing how they do these, because they do it for all different sports, and they actually have staff. That's what they do. Like, these people are up in some cases, all night, and that's what they do. They get paid to cut and splice video based on what your requests are. Pretty fascinating stuff.
It really is. And
A lot
I
easier.
think the experiment is, are we going to get kids to watch video, and will it be effective? And I think it's all about the right stuff, the right amount, and the right time. Keep them interested. It's just like running a practice. Too much of the da 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 da, repeat, repeat, repeat. They're gonna lose interest. So they want to play and they want to think, and that's the art. Teaching and coaching is just in motivate them and get them excited about what they're trying to do, and change things up whenever you need to. I think that's going to be. I'm looking forward to that opportunity. Actually, Tom, I was wondering about what the heck would I do? Would I even do anything this year? And I do have a couple mental training things that could be done that I'll run by you, but I love the idea of video and grouping, and we'll talk privately about that, meet for coffee, and just mull over some different things. And So I'll be pretty prepared for it when July rolls around. So
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy doing it because, you like to work with video and that kind of stuff. That site you have. See a lot of things on that site you have, with the clips of things that happen
yeah.
are pretty applicable too.
Oh yeah, I could type in anything. Peter, if you've ever gone to my site, like when I send those links out, I'm going to ask you, Peter, just to type in a word like transition or breakout and see what comes up. Let me know if that works for you,
I will for sure.
because that's where I could strictly use my site, and I've got women's hockey and guys hockey. Now, not since COVID, because we've been talking, but before COVID, from 2010 until COVID, I was editing professional national team footage of all the tactical things that were greatly performed by those teams. So they're recorded, and I think there can be some learning from them. One of the minor hockey coaches, it was the 17 and 18-year-old coach, or 15 and 16 and 17-year-old players. He sent the links out to his players. Whenever I shared them, I would produce one or two or three a week, and he sent out appropriate ones to his players. And it's interesting. That summer, I dropped in at a TV store, and one of his players was selling the televisions, and he came up to me and he said, "We've been looking at. I looked at your videos. The coach has been sending to me. They're really great." So, from a coaching point of view, just sharing them, and if they look at them, they look at them, and if they're not too long, they'll look at them.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure they're Tom appropriate suited to girls, but what do you think, Tom?
Well, if it's hockey's hockey, so if it's if it's showing them things that if they have to analyze and talk about it, then
Yeah.
they take ownership of it. So if it's, I think the key is good examples. I
Yeah.
just thinking that Peter and I must have gone to the same store with these hoodies we got on here, the same color almost.
Yeah, well, you didn't get the message. It's Blue Hoodie Thursday.
Mine's got a,
Yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing.
mine's from when I coached the women at Mount Royal.
Nice.
Well,
They
guys,
got
look,
the colors. Now it's a real dark blue. It was a powder blue one year. And now it's a real, almost like the color Wally's got on.
Yeah, when I scouted in the USHL for Indiana, it was light blue, like powder blue was one of the colors.
Yeah. And they've gone like, the emblem isn't here, but they've gone from a vicious looking cougar to, they changed it. It looks like a pussycat. They're, I got a thing on the charger here. It's running out of juice.
A happy cougar. You can't have a mean cougar. Can't be mean.
Happy cougar. But they did win the Canadian women's last year.
There you go.
Came in as the 8th seed or something. They got hot. I think the national for the men's is this weekend. University of Calgary is there.
Yeah, all the NCAAs are happening now too. They're all at Vermont played University of Connecticut last night. The Connecticut won, so they're moving on. But yeah, that's all happening. Fun to watch. It's a good time of year to watch it.
and
Well,
the
this is top
Canadian
8.
women started, Tom?
I'm not sure. I get the stuff from TJ all about the dinos, right?
Yeah, I know the Dinos. I'm not
But
sure
for
about
long.
Yeah.
We went to the national. It was just a Final Four when I coached in Toronto,
Yeah.
and now it's the top 8, so you can come in second and you can go. So Calgary came in second and they're there. So they're in Toronto. My daughter's there because she's head of the alumni at the university. So she's there a couple of days of it.
Well, guys, I want to thank you for your time. I'm
Good.
looking forward to the weekend and all the playoff games. Tom, if you want to join me and come and watch any of the games, I'd love some company, but I've got about 6 on the schedule for the weekend. Trying to get Alan to come out for a game or two, but he's just not well enough yet. So thanks very much, Peter, for coming on and sharing your expertise. Tom, as usual, brilliant. And I'm probably going to visit Alan at his home on actually tomorrow afternoon, Tom, and he's going to do some play diagramming at the table, and I'm going to record it. And I don't know if you want to join us or not, but it's Friday afternoon. It might be from about 1 till 2. And
Yeah, at noon on Friday.
you got hockey, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys.
All right. Take care, gentlemen.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.